so adamant. You told me that the one thing I was missing, I didn't know I was free. Tonight, when I pulled the car around, I was alone under the sky, and I was thinking it was the first year when I could see somehow you were right. Was I free like I should be? Was I free as you were? Is it me that you're talking to? I never could stand these simple words. Tonight I left before the sun rose, and I drove like in a dream. All these years that I've followed you, it never occurred to you to follow me.
Tamara Lindeman, welcome to The Right Note. Was I free as I should be? You sound quiet, but the turmoil inside a lot of these songs on the new album, is almost violent. There's some huge questions, major world circumstances going on in some of these songs. What kind of mindset were you in when you were writing them?
Kind of like a bit reckless. I felt reckless when I was writing them. I don't know, I just felt a lot of things, obviously. And I just felt like the time for being cautious and subtle was past. You know, I didn't feel like I had anything quiet or gentle to say. I was just like, if I don't start saying these things, then what am I doing? You know, why bother?
Did you feel better equipped to do that now than you were 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
I guess so. I guess that must have been what changed. But also I think I just felt sort of an urgency that maybe I didn't feel a couple years ago.
Because you haven't always felt comfortable facing the world, putting yourself out in front of people.
No.
Figuratively and literally.
Yeah, that's true. I've been pretty guarded. Yeah, I'm not really sure what changed. I think I just got a little older and I had a very strong sense of wanting to let some things out, and also realizing like the records and the artists that mean something to me are fearless in this way, and that's wonderful. So it was like a positive thing.
There's two words you use there, fearless and reckless. They don't necessarily mean the same thing, but do you feel that you were more fearless or reckless with this one?
I would say reckless, actually, because I'm never without fear. Fearless is not a thing I am. But reckless, you can be reckless even when you're fearful.
True.
Yeah.
And reckless is, in a sense, abandon. You abandon the chance of control. You just let things happen as they might.
Yeah, or just, for me it was having control felt reckless. Being like, that's a good idea, but we're not going to do it. That's so strange to me because I'm very cautious and I always feel like I want to make the right decision. And I just realized with this record, there is no right decision. There's only a decision.
It's interesting that you felt comfortable now to be reckless. I mean, you've been, in a sense, in the public eye or putting yourself out in front of the public since you were about 13 when you started acting. What did you learn when you were 13, 14 about what it takes to be a public presence?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like what I learned when I was 13 or 14, I started acting, was actually like the opposite of putting myself out there. Like I learned to like act basically. And it was a helpful thing because I was really shy and I struggled like socially, which is kind of why I wound up getting into acting. But it was like this elaborate screen that I could then hide behind. And a lot of my teenagehood and early 20s was this tension between, acting is a very like conformist sort of profession in this strange way. Like you're told what to do and, what to wear, and people do your hair and you're, you have no control. So it was really interesting to slowly emerge from that and try to figure out how to let myself out, whereas as an actor, I just always felt like I was playing a role even when I was, being interviewed or something.
So letting yourself out and reckless again, and you mentioned control. I mean, in this case, you felt confident enough or maybe reckless enough to take control of the production of this album. Was it good to have all those decisions in your hand?
It was great. It was really fun. I'm a really terrible decision maker, so I thought it would be so difficult. But it was really fun to realize that I could just make a call and stick with it, and that would be the end of the story. It actually was really fun.
Did you argue with yourself?
A little bit over some things, like mixing is always really stressful, like getting into the finer points of like, should the flute come down 1 dB here or not? But for the most part, I experienced a really nice flow of, yes, yes, no, no, which was nice.
One of the production decisions on this record, it sounds to me like you've gone more clearly electric. Have you had any folk purists during a show yell out Judas? Trader?
No, it's so funny. The first couple of shows we played were in Europe, and the band we got a little bit like brash and loud, and I only play electric, and I got a real lead guitar player who's like a shredder. It's cool. But the first couple shows I had this fear that, it just wouldn't come across right, or I didn't know what it would even sound like. I was like, if we become a rock band, are we actually a bad rock band because I don't know any better? But actually everyone's embraced it to a really surprising extent. And, even at shows where there isn't time to do a quiet section, people seem stoked, and it's kind of nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to argue with something like the momentum and the arrangement of Keep It All to Myself.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favourites on the record. I mean, it's the kind of folk song that Richard Thompson would be happy to have, I think. But I don't know, maybe they'll be placated by power, which is pretty intense. And I mean, you aren't joking when you say you want to throw your weight around.
Yeah.
Well, what did you mean by that line?
Yeah. Well, I think I want to have weight to throw around, which is not that you necessarily would, but if you have it, then you have the ability. I liked, I meant that song to be kind of a dark song because I don't really like the idea of power in society as a thing. It's a negative thing, but it's interesting because when you don't have it, you do want it, which is why it says, I wanted power.
I mean, part of the intensity is because there's some ambivalence in that song about power.
Totally.
And about the people using it personally or broadly in society.
Totally, yeah.
But one of the interesting things about your voice is you sing so quietly and quite contained. But what do you think of the strengths of your voice?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I am capable of singing loudly, but I find if I sing loudly, I don't have any control, and I don't naturally have a loud voice. It's much more natural to me to sing quietly. And I think because I don't have that belter voice, to me, and honestly, my taste in singers is all about phrasing and expression, like it's how you say the word, when you say the word. And with these songs especially, it's so fun to sing them because there's so much room and there's all these words and all these different ways you can throw them out. I think that is how I see my strength as a singer, is in expression rather than, pure ability. I mean, I know lots of people who are way better technical singers than me, but I can get by.
Do pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe for the last question, inspired by the last track on your self-titled album, not self-titled, but The Weather Station.
Yeah.
What is the most dangerous thing about you?
Well, it's, talking about a person who, in the song, it says the most dangerous thing about you is your pain, which I think is a truth about a lot of people, where there are people who, have pain that they don't know how to acknowledge, and so it just comes out at other people, and they destroy things.
That's the character in the song.
Yeah.
What about you? What's the most dangerous thing about you? Is it pain?
Well, that's what I bring myself into it. I say I know for me it's the same, because I know that if I, similar to this person, didn't acknowledge and embrace this aspect of myself, I could be, probably as dangerous as them. Like it's facing that reality about yourself. That what I was thinking about with this person was just like, I think I'm a negative person, and I've figured out how to embrace that and make that a strength, because to me being negative is not bad. To me it's like the fact that I see darkness everywhere is what allows me to appreciate like the beauty in things, and the fact that I more naturally see like the flaws in a situation or a person, allows me to then see how they've overcome those flaws or the good in things. But I could see how if I hadn't figured that out, and maybe, I think a lot of people have this fear of negative things, and if you fear the negatives, you're more likely to be consumed by them, I think. So I can imagine that if I went down that path, or hadn't learned to acknowledge and embrace these things, that I could be similar to this person in terms of just seeing the dark side of things and being, I feel like I never really would, but it's like this person that I'm thinking of, that I'm sure we all know people like, is like the person that combines that pain with like entitlement, basically, which I also say in the song. Like it's like in the first verse, they're kind of like just talking and don't think about whether or not I or the waitress want to hear what they have to say. So it's like if you combine pain with entitlement, then you can cause a lot of trouble.
I could make some kind of national stereotyping here, but I think Canadians and Australians know maybe better than one of our neighbours, shared neighbours, that been positive, been up, been happy isn't necessarily the best thing to have in your life all the time.
Totally. Yeah, I think I really notice in the Canadian identity, I guess, in the Canadian national identity, there is a negativity, which I think is a good thing. It's kind of like, I guess, the Russian melancholy. I think being like a northern country, you notice it. I listen all day to the CBC, which is like the national radio. It's mostly like talk radio, and Canadians love to just like tear things apart. They have like a lot of call-in shows where people call in and express their concerns about something, which to me is very funny. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing too, because if you expect life to be beautiful and happy all the time, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, thank you for sharing your concerns with us today.
Thank you.
Tamara Lindeman, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, in an hour it could all turn around. You don't have to know how, though it all feels like fate now that you're down. Strange in your body and strange in your mind. Now it's coming from all sides. I lay it down on the floor and I close the blinds. You don't have to be everything that I know you need. You don't have to be only minute 1, minute 2, minute 3. I cannot tell us apart. Your pain made free with my own heart. We laid out under the ceiling as though under stars, as though this afternoon was the blackness from here to the moon, dizzied by distances within you. It don't have to be an answer to every disaster that you know could come true. Only minute 1, then minute 2. To be everything that I know